Hello YouTube, this is the Packaging Nerd, and today I wanted to go over a really quick common packaging item that you see pretty regularly, but it's also got a lot of other uses, so just wanted to do a pretty quick video and talk about that. I actually ran through this video, recorded it, and found out I didn't have my mic turned on, so you might see in the package it's taped up, and it's because I do want to rip it off and show you some things, and so I already did that, so and you'll just bear with me as we go through it a second time. But obviously you probably recognize this. This is a toilet paper tube, toilet paper core, and you see these regularly in things like paper towels or other paper plastic items on a roll. This is called a convoluted tube. That's the actual name for it, and you can tell because it's got this, it's a flat piece of material that's spiral wound around to form the tube. And so this is something that you'll see, for example, biscuit dough. You might know you get a similar type of package in biscuit dough, and you actually hit it on the table to open the biscuits and unravel it that way. You also see it in industry with large reams of paper, plastic bags on a roll, often shipped like this around a core similar to this. It'll be much thicker, sometimes a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch thick even, in fiber board type material. And they obviously come in different diameters and different lengths per any application, and those are more commonly called cores, and they can get pretty expensive, so you'll see people use those over and over in factories, or they'll actually ship them back and reuse them. Another thing I was going to mention is stretch wrap. If you're in the packaging or the warehousing business, you see stretch wrap tubes all the time, and so you see big, thick, heavy cores used in stretch wrap. So here is just a single paperboard material. I'll try to rip it around. You can see you can kind of split it right along the seam pretty well, and then opens up, and you see, so there are 2 strips of material spirally wound to create this tube. I don't know exactly, it's probably about 16 point board recycled kraft, I'm guessing, so pretty disposable, pretty flimsy. Obviously paper towels and toilet paper are lightweight. They're commodity that you use, you buy fairly cheap, and you use it and you throw it away, and it either ends up in the landfill, or we're lucky in a recycling facility. So they're very flimsy and they're made to be disposed of. The cores that I mentioned in industrial uses and applications are much thicker and more suitable to be returned and reused. Then we get into this infant formula. So this actually is a convolute tube, and so that's what kind of tied this together with this video, but there's a few other things I thought were interesting that I thought I could show. But as you look in, you might not notice that it's a convolute tube at first because it's silver in color, and what that is, that's just a foil laminate layer on top of the paperboard, in a similar fashion, a little bit thicker, much thicker than this, but they'll laminate a foil layer there. You have a steel rim up here and a steel base attached on there. I don't have it to show, but I'm sure there was some type of a lid that was sealed airtight when we first opened this, and it was probably a foil lidding material of such with a little fold over tab that you peel back. And then you have this little reusable, reclosable lid, and this is LDPE, low density polyethylene. It's very flexible, has poor deadfold characteristics. It's really not much of a barrier. Decent barrier for water and vapor, but that's about it. And interesting thing is on the bottom they actually have the use by date stamped into the steel base. So I'm not really sure how that's done, if it's done on the line, on the filling line as a first step, where it gets stamped, and or if it comes in from the manufacturer of the packaging material that way. I don't know how they line up the dates with their filling process. If they did it that way, that would be interesting, but kind of cool, and you know, can't rub off, so that's good. This one says used by 1 November 2015, so we obviously completed that well in advance of its expiration. So on the label, a few things that I wanted to point out. First off, there's some foil coloring on the label, and from a consumer product standpoint, that stuff gets expensive quickly. And so I know, you know, they probably are using that to really grab your eye and draw you to it, give it a little bit of a premium feel, and that's usually starts adding up in cost when you start doing such shiny things. But you know, people like shiny things, so it's attractive and people want to pick it up and touch it, and if you can get them to do that, they're likely to buy it. You also know that this formula category is very competitive by their labeling, because they say right on the top here, only store brand without palm olein oil for excellent calcium absorption. So what they're doing is they're going right after their competition. What are the other store brands? And let's call it out right on the front that we're better than them. And on the back, you also see a comparison chart where it's this brand versus 2 other brands, and they point out how they're superior in many ways. That I leave that up for your judgment. I see there's some definite differences in these comparison charts, so it's all about what you want, I guess. But they're definitely trying to highlight themselves against their competition, and these are name brand competitions, and this was for store brand, so going right at it. I thought this was interesting. This says breast milk is the ideal feeding for babies, so which this obviously is not, so they're going out and putting that down. I do see that there's an annotation there, a footnote, which brings me down here, and it says this formula complies with all requirements for nutrients and manufacturing specified for infant formula in the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. So it must be a requirement that they note that, but I thought that was kind of interesting. And then I also noticed that they don't have a typical calorie and nutrition label of sorts. They obviously list all the ingredients, and again, it complies with the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, so I'm sure they're in compliance. But it's just kind of interesting that it's not the traditional label panel with your serving size and your different daily percentage values. So obviously it's different babies are intended to use different amounts and eat different amounts than other babies, I guess. So that's probably the driver there, but kind of interesting. So go ahead and peel this off now. That's quite loud. And what you see, this is a paper stock label, and then there it looks like it's a printed material on the top that maybe is has a little bit of a film into it, plastic film. Not really sure, but it's definitely a paper stock label that was just rolled around and then glued on the seam. And then here you can see this kind of crushes. It's obviously not metal, but it does have a foil barrier. So you see that there's metal being the greatest barrier for oxygen, for water, and light. It's the best barrier. It keeps everything out. So you have on the outside it's laminated with a foil, on the inside it's laminated with a foil. You have the steel, you have the lidding that was sealed on, it was probably a foil, and you have the steel on the bottom. So pretty good package, and They may even gas flush it to get the oxygen out of it when they package it. I'm not sure, but anyways, you get good good barrier to the product so that it can stay on shelf, and it's dry. You don't want any moisture to get in, clump it. You don't want any bacteria, organisms, or anything like that to get in. No molds, and maybe the oxygen could deteriorate the product faster. So at least the flavors and the taste. So I'm not sure if that's important in this product, but they're doing a good job of preventing that. So pretty good barrier package, pretty strong. Get the good cylinder strength, that hoop strength, and it's pretty interesting. But yeah, you can see it's about maybe an 1/8 inch thick paperboard material, and once you start crushing it, then it creases and it's definitely compromised. But pretty neat package. And so that's the Convoluted tube. Those are some of the common ways you see it in the industry, and this is the infant formula packaging that I just came across today. So just wanted to do a quick video on that. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know. Like it. Leave some comments or questions, and definitely subscribe to the channel. We'll keep doing some more like this. Thanks.